The big story today was that the head of Homeland Security, Kristen Nielsen, almost resigned last week. Or I guess this past week. I guess it was just on Wednesday. She told colleagues she was close to resigning on Thursday because Trump berated her in front of the entire cabinet on Wednesday for her failure to adequately secure the nation's border. This is according to the Washington Post. Mr. Trump's anger toward Ms. Nielsen, who was sitting several seats to his left at the meeting, was part of a lengthy tirade in which the president railed at his cabinet about what he said was its lack of progress toward sealing the country's borders against illegal immigrants. As according to one person at the meeting, his anger about immigration has grown in recent weeks, as according to several officials. He repeatedly claimed credit for the fact that during his first year in office, illegal border crossings had dropped to their lowest levels in decades. Remember, folks, that border crossings represent a rather narrow slice of illegal, so-called illegal immigrants in this country, undocumented folks. But it's the most popular talk about because that way everybody in your audience knows you're talking about Mexicans or Latin Americans. But this year, they have risen again, robbing him of one of his favorite talking points. The reason why they have risen is because violence in their home countries has risen. Like we've established at this point, the draw for immigrants is not a pull one. It is a push one. The draw is not, I want to go to the land of milk and honey. It's, I want to leave the land where I might be killed or my child might die. One persistent issue has been Mr. Trump's belief that Ms. Nielsen and other officials in the department were resisting his direction that parents be separated from their children when families cross without authorization into the United States. Here is John Kelly brandishing his sociopathic bona fides on NPR.
Well, you can really hear that in his comments. They differ from his boss's polarizing rhetoric, and yet they still agree on tough border controls.
Let me step back and tell you that the vast majority of the people that move illegally into the United States are not bad people. They're not criminals. They're not MS-13. But they're also not people that would easily assimilate into the United States. They're overwhelmingly rural people. In the countries they come from, 4th, 5th, 6th grade educations are kind of the norm.
Pause it. He's not talking about Trump voters. I want to make that clear, that you could make that mistake. Overwhelmingly rural. Don't have higher education.
Grade educations are kind of the norm. They're coming here for a reason, and I sympathize with the reason. But the laws are the laws.
Kelly's known for his hardline thinking on deporting unauthorized immigrants and for suggesting early on that family separation could be a powerful deterrent at the border against illegal crossings, and also for canceling TPS, temporary protected status. Mm-hmm. This is the program that allows immigrants to stay in the U.S. from certain countries that have been struck by natural disaster or war. And the administration recently canceled TPS for some 400,000 immigrants from Central America and the Caribbean. But when I asked him about that, what he said surprised me.
I think we should fold all of the TPS people that have been here for a considerable period of time and find a way for them to be a path to citizenship.
A path to citizenship?
Yep.
Rather than sent home?
Well, they were in a legal status under TPS. You take the 100 Central Americans, they've all been here 20 plus years. I mean, if you really start looking at, you've been here 20 years, what have you done with your life? Well, I've married an American guy, and I have 3 children. And I've worked, and I've gotten a degree, or I'm a brick mason or something like that. That's what I think we should do.
Now, the idea, and do we have the integrate well? Do we have the rest of the quote? That was in the first part. The integrate well? Oh, he did. They don't have the skills? He said that? Oh, okay. You see, the inherent contradiction in what he's talking about. I mean, the people who came here from these countries because they were hit with a natural disaster or a war did not have any more or less skills than these other people. Yet 20 years later, they've married an American, now they're a brick mason. So it's absurd. His justification for taking children from their parents as a way of being a deterrent and saying, like, look, go back to those countries where there is violence, which has drawn you here. I mean, why not amputate a hand? I mean, if you were to say anyone who we catch crossing the border without documentation, we're going to amputate a finger or two fingers, or just like go full on to like 4 fingers or a hand, surely that will be a deterrent as well, right? I mean, if you're willing to emotionally scar a child by ripping them away from their parents, putting them in some type of detention center so that they're not with their parents, why not just skip that so that the child is not scarred and just chop the hand off of one of the parents?
Don't give them ideas.
And just leave it at that.
Don't give these people ideas.
I just don't understand what the justification it would be against that.
It's just being, well, there isn't. That's kind of my point.
He also doesn't acknowledge the role the U.S. has played in both causing violence via military interventionism and predatory trade deals.
Yes, but that's still a second order issue. I mean, the fact is there is a problem there, and you're driving them out, whether or not we're responsible for it. Even if we weren't, even in a perfect world where it was the United States had no responsibility whatsoever for pouring weapons in there and et cetera, which we clearly do, as just as Ollie North, takes his next position as the head of the NRA. Even if that wasn't the case, the morality of this is just stunning, or the immorality, I guess, of this. And I would also add, if they don't have skills, then they can't possibly be taking jobs away from Americans, right? Like, then what would be the problem here? Of course, you could tell some peach farmers in Georgia they don't have skills. It's just absurd. It's just lies, and it's just disgusting. It really is. It's disgusting.